We welcome you to this forum featuring the candidates who filed to run for a place on the City Council of the City of New Hope. The election will be held on Tuesday, November the 4th from 7 in the morning until 8 o'clock at night. And my name is Joanne Brown. Right now I happen to be a co-president of the League of Women Voters of Crystal New Hope in East Plymouth. League is proud of its history of citizen education in our communities and provides these forums to help you make more informed decisions in local elections. League of Women Voters is a political organization which does not support or oppose any political candidate or party. And we do not assume responsibility for the contents of the candidate's statements this evening. Only credentialed media may record this event for purpose of news coverage. It is being cablecast on the New Hope City channel and will be replayed on Channel 12. Candidates may not use debate clips in their campaign ads. We're very pleased that our moderator this evening is Robin Smothers, a resident of Golden Valley.
Thank you. Good evening. It is a pleasure to be here. Please join me in welcoming the candidates as they present their reasons for wanting to serve on the City of New Hope City Council. Thank you. There are 4 candidates for 2 seats on the council. The candidates are John Elder, Jonathan London, Louis Oswald, and Daniel Stauner. A brief description of the format that we'll be following tonight. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes for an opening statement, an opportunity to tell us about themselves and why they are running for City Council. Following that, members of the audience may ask questions of individual or of all candidates. Please write your question on one of the cards provided and hand it to a league member. Questions that were submitted online up to a day before today's forum will also be included. All candidates may answer any question, whether or not it was directed to them. It is our intention to select questions that represent the interest expressed by the members of our audience and those who submit questions. Candidates may take up to 1 minute to answer, and at the end of the question period, each candidate will have up to 1 minute for a concluding statement. Candidates, you have drawn lots to initially determine the order of speaking, and the timekeeper will assist you by indicating how much time remains and when to stop. And can you see the timekeeper clearly? It's right in front of you. Great. Please begin with your opening statement of up to 2 minutes. And this evening, John Elder, Drew, is the first candidate to speak.
Good evening. First of all, my thanks to the League of Women's Voters for facilitating this evening and all the other forums in the area. Their contributions are enormous. My name is John Elder. I've lived in New Hope for 26 years. I'm married with 3 children, all adult, and a dog. I'm a retired, my whole family attended Independent School District 281. I'm a retired police officer and detective, with the last 7 years being here with the New Hope Police Department. I'm currently the Public Information Officer for the Minneapolis Police. I hold a master's degree in St. Mary's, University of Minnesota, in Public Safety Administration. I'm exceptionally active in the community. I've always been that active. I am a past Scoutmaster, Dare Officer, soccer coach for the Wings and for the Minnesota Thunder soccer clubs, and I'm a regional coordinator at the church. These things just go to show my commitment to the area and its citizens. I'm currently on the New Hope City Council, and I've been on the council for 7 years and have immersed myself in activities as a council member. Things such as the Quad City Beyond the Yellow Ribbon campaign, board of directors, commissioner for the Bassett Creek Watershed to improve the water quality in this area and downstream, a committee member for the New Hope Mayor's Prayer Breakfast, and a board member for the fabulous New Hope Community Farmers Market. Fiscal responsibility while still delivering more than core services is of paramount concern to New Hope and to its citizens. My work, more work is to be done. Each department has been and will be scrutinized as to how to make things work better for less. We've produced that and we will continue to produce that. Thank you.
Thank you. Our second candidate is Jonathan London.
Hello, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for holding the forum tonight, and thank you, residents, for coming out. Again, my name is Jonathan London, and I'm running for New Hope City Council. I'm very passionate about the city that I grew up in and lived in for more than 30 years. I've served as a Citizen Advisory Commissioner for 6 years and as Chairman for 2. I'm an independent investment advisor that manages investments for individuals and small businesses, and I'm married with 2 children. I decided to run for New Hope City Council after spending 6 years on the Citizens Advisory Commission and understanding the city's biggest challenges. I believe New Hope needs new single-family housing. While other current city council members continue to okay more multifamily residences, I believe that New Hope's 45% rental housing percentage is out of balance and impacting our business development, our school district, and our property values. In terms of business development, we wanted something like Excelsior and Grand or the West End, a multi-tenant, multi-use facility. Residents came together starting in 1998 for the Kmart site. That's not what we're going to have. Hy-Vee, the city has spent $6.5 million on the site. They sold it to Hy-Vee for $3,725,000. That'll have to be made up by taxpayers. In the school district, I teach chess at Robbinsdale Spanish Immersion to over 180 kids. I talk to a lot of the school teachers in terms of challenges in this district. Number 1 challenge teachers tell me is poverty. Number 2, transiency. The higher amount of rental housing, we have those challenges. And lastly, our property values. Many residents and long-term residents know that since about 1980, our property values in New Hope have not appreciated at the same rate as our surrounding communities, and we're often 20 to 40% below. Thank you.
Thank you. Our third candidate is Louis Oswald.
Good evening. First, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters and Channel 12 for this opportunity to speak today, and for you all in the audience today coming out, paying attention, and getting involved. My name is Louis Oswald. I was born and raised in Northeast Texas in a little city called Marshall. It's about the size of the city of New Hope. After I graduated college, I got a job with a stock brokerage firm that moved me here to Minneapolis, Minnesota in 1998. I'm proud to say that I've lived in New Hope all 17 years that I've been here in Minnesota. And I just celebrated my 20th anniversary with my employer. Needless to say, I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. Over these 17 years, I've grown to love the closest of this city, the closest in proximity of my apartment to my work downtown, the closest of where everything is, whether walking, driving, its ease of access or public transportation and highways. And I've grown to love the people I've come to know here in the cities. I've really enjoyed the parks and recreation activities and venues that New Hope has to offer. I also love the idea of Hy-Vee coming to the town and the potential the city center district will bring to help revitalize the heart of New Hope. But over the years, I've noticed several trends that concern me. For example, why have so many officers left the police department? Over the last few years, we've had at least 5 officers leave the force. None of the other local communities have this high of a turnover rate. Why is this turnover happening, and how many more want to leave? My number 1 reason for running for city council is public safety. My second concern is limiting the number of multifamily housing coming into New Hope. Having a 49% housing stock in New Hope is way too high for a city of our size. Finally, I want to do what I can to keep New Hope a great place to raise our families. I'm currently the president of the New Hope Lions. Not only do the Lions help people and families in need, but we serve the community and we host events in conjunction with the city like Duck Duck Days and the Corn Feed that bring our families together. It would be an honor for me to serve on the council for you, and I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, the fourth candidate, Daniel Stauner.
Good evening. I am Daniel Stauner. I'm an attorney, and as of New Year's Eve, I'll have been a resident of New Hope for 26 years. I am in my 8th year on the City Council. During those 8 years, we have made a significant amount of progress. We've reformed the budget process to make the budget more open and accountable and more understandable for anyone who cares to look at the city budget. We've improved the level of management in our city and increased the competency and performance of staff over the last 8 years. During those 8 years, I played a significant role in preserving the West Metro Fire District during the time when it was faced with the threat of dissolution. I'm willing to continue to serve, and I ask for your vote in the coming election. Thank you.
Thank you. It is now time for the audience questions. You may continue to write and raise your hand for a league member to collect your question during the course of the forum. Questions may be directed to an individual or to all candidates, and each candidate has the opportunity to respond to any question. We do reserve the right to consolidate questions if there are several on one issue, so that as many issues as possible may be covered during this period. Questions will be answered in rotating order, and the first one to answer tonight will be Mr. Oswald. Mr. Oswald, I read in the Post today that New Hope has 45% rental property. How does that break down? Please describe how some of these communities, which include seniors such as Northridge and St. Teresa, are bad for our community and our schools.
That is a good question. According to the information I had, we're at 48% multifamily housing, and out of that, 5 of the buildings or complexes are considered low income. So that is approximately only 600 rooms that are dedicated to low income. The bulk of it, though, is the senior centers, which there's nothing wrong with them. They deserve to be in the community. We have a great build of seniors here in the community, and they don't make up the majority of the 45%. So I don't think I answered the question, though.
All right, thank you. Mr. Elder?
Really simple. Currently, and this comes straight out of the county, we are at 44% rental. 22% of that is St. Therese, Good Samaritan, Northridge, and Chardon Court. When you remove the senior and disability centers, it comes down to 22% rental. And I guess I'm not willing to ask the disabled or the seniors to move out of our city, just so that people like the numbers. How many people moved directly from their parents' house into a home they own? Rental has a place. Rental has a very big place in every community, and as long as it's properly maintained and managed and we continue on with our rental inspections, we'll be okay.
Thank you. Mr. London?
Yeah, every community needs rental. And the problem here in New Hope is we're out of balance. When we're at 45% of our city's housing is rental compared to our surrounding cities, often much closer to 22 to 26%. So you can go to the Met Council website and you can pull up every city in the West Metro area or even the entire Twin Cities, and you can see the numbers matter. And the reason the numbers matter is demographics. If we're trying to attract big business, we're not able to attract the developments that we want across the street. No developers were interested. We put out a request for proposal for over 20 to the 25 top commercial developers. We came back with another senior housing facility and more apartments. We spent, like I said, since 1998 looking for a multi-tenant, multi-use facility such as Excelsior and Grand or the West End. No developers were interested, so the numbers do matter.
Mr. Stahner?
This is an issue that comes up a lot and is, quite frankly, a phony issue. If you look at the Met Council website, Crystal has a rental housing of approximately 28%, and yet their average home value is $20,000 lower than New Hope's. So the idea that somehow or another rental housing is driving down our property values doesn't stand up to scrutiny. The reality is that rental housing brings in density. And density is necessary to provide the critical mass of people to support retail, to support the kind of vibrant development that brings people in. It isn't just the fact of rental, it's also the quality of rental. There was a discussion of low income. I would point out to people that the Compass Point apartments that are being built on the north side of town, the income limits for that is about $18,000 above the median family income for the city of New Hope. That's not going to depress our property.
Thank you. Staying on the topic of homes and the follow-up question, where are the specific locations for adding single-family homes and condos? What is the current zoning for these locations? Mr. London.
The City of Crystal has averaged 13 and a half new homes a year since 2000. New Hope, by comparison, less than 2. You've got a full built-out city in Crystal, just like you do here. They're taking down their old, dilapidated homes. I took the time to walk over to Crystal City Hall. I've contacted even the City of St. Louis Park. Their housing programs are much more robust. I live in the Hopewood Hills neighborhood. On 40th and Winnetka, we had a house that sat vacant. It was dilapidated and could have been torn down for more than 10 years. Councilmember Stauner told me that the city had 2 opportunities to buy the property at $40,000. It's a 14,000 square foot corner lot. The city did nothing about it. There's no housing program here other than the foreclosed to fabulous article that many may have read to turn over foreclosed housing to low-income housing applicants. So if and when our housing stock comes onto the market and we're able to pick it up for inexpensive amounts, those are candidates.
Mr. Oswald?
Well, I'm going to have to plead a little bit ignorant on this question here, but I do know that we have a new build going on at, I believe, 55 and Winnetka. So that's going to be a large plot of single home lots coming in. So there is building and growth coming for the single homes. But that is all that I have on that one.
Thank you. Mr. Stauner?
With all due respect to Mr. London, he misspoke. I told him nothing of the kind. The fact is that in my law practice, I work with investors who buy up properties and rehab them, and it's an expensive process. It's not an easy process. The rule of thumb is that when you start working on a property, you don't know how much it's going to cost you until you take that counter off to put in the new counter, and then you see all the things that are wrong behind that. It's an expensive and a difficult process. Buying up properties is not the city's role. We have some single-family homes we're looking at buying, but those are the ones that are so dilapidated that no investor will touch. That's the place for the city to buy up single-family homes and rehab them or tear them down and make the lot available. But going out and trying to compete with private investors is not the right course to take.
Thank you. And Mr. Elder?
And I agree with Councilman Stauner. And what Mr. Oswald said was, the Winnetka Learning Center was purchased by the EDA, and it was 14 to 15 acres between that. We had it set up for 34 homes and 27 detached townhomes. And that's a great place for us to go ahead and put in new housing. We're in a built city. We don't have a lot of spaces for us to manufacture where homes go. We do have money in our CDBG grant, the Community Block Development Grant, which allows us the ability for scattered site rehab program of redoing homes, and also scattered site demo program, which, again, Councilman Stauner touched on, that hasn't been seen as profitable or the city's role. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question deals with parks. And Mr. Stauner, we will start with you. Our park system is 50 years old and in need of timely improvements. How would you fund this effort? Would you use general obligation bonds, tax levy, or other?
Interestingly enough, we actually have a specific park fund levy that funds the capital improvement plan for the park. There are some issues with that. The fund is projected to be in deficit in the next few years because we've had a lot of projects in the park, a lot of playground reconstructions. We may have to go to funds from the general levy. That remains to be seen. Obviously, my preference would be to use the funds we have at the moment without going out and increasing taxes, but if it's necessary, it's necessary.
Thank you. Mr. London?
Yeah, I would first look at the park fund. When I was on the Citizens Advisory Commission, I believe the balances were north of $500,000. In addition to that, there's a liquor fund that could possibly be tapped for uses in the parks. But again, it gets back to housing. It gets back to the tax value here in this city. Less than 34 homes in New Hope. I'm sorry, less than 46 homes. That's 1%. There's 4,600 homes, single-family homes, are valued over $300,000. By comparison, Golden Valley has over 400 homes north of $500,000. Plymouth, even more. So we have no high-end housing in this city, and it costs us when it comes to tax revenue. Those higher taxes and higher valued homes could be helping to offset some of these costs.
Thank you. Mr. Elder?
Using the funding from the current infrastructure fund is the way to go, and it will, in fact, deplete. So we look at what we draw in taxes and what can be used from the general budget. Also, we're receiving about $500,000 this year in local government aid that's not factored into the budget, and 2/3 of that's going to the water fund and 1/3 of it's going to equipment replacement. We may get to a point where, as we're looking at those funds coming in, and dependent upon where it needs to be, that would be a very good source of income and expenditure for that money. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Oswald?
As I mentioned in my opening statement, I love the parks and recreations departments here as well as the venues. I play softball on the fields, and some of them are getting outdated. Using the park fund levy is going to be the primary source, but as Stoner and Elder mentioned, it's going to run out. I want to be cautious with regards to getting hooked on LGA because that's going to require us to be too dependent on state funding, which is never a good thing. But I think there might be a plan then to start using a use tax of the people that actually use, and maybe increasing the fees for the softball leagues and the tournaments, increasing a fee for the golf course, which is a huge benefit here in the community. I know the New Hope Lions are going to be looking into purchasing a digital board sign for the golf course. So we are always looking to use money from our fund to help benefit the local city community development.
Thank you. The next topic is transportation, and we will start with Mr. Elder. There's 2 questions, but both regarding transportation.
Okay.
With our aging baby boomers and the demise of 5 cities' transportation, do you have any ideas for increasing pedestrian safety and mobility for seniors? The second question says, New Hope discontinued 5 cities' transportation for seniors, so what are they supposed to do? Do we have enough bus service?
We don't have enough bus service. Absolutely, we do not, and that's sad and that's bothersome. And this current council has met with the MTC to look at increasing the amount of bus service that's available. Prism also did away with their busing, so we're looking for ways to make it better for citizens, for the senior citizens to be able to get around, and that includes conversations that we've had with each of the senior centers. And we are working with them to try to find the way to make that work. As far as pedestrian safety, I never had any idea how important sidewalks were until the very first time I went out campaigning and spoke with people from senior centers who talked about the condition of our sidewalks. We need to make sure that people aren't walking on the roadways. We need to make sure that the sidewalks are clear and available for people to use, and that all of our intersections are properly marked. And we've seen too many people, thankfully not in New Hope, but harmed or killed by vehicles when they're on foot. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stoner?
I'm an aging baby boomer, so I can sympathize with the people who asked the question about 5 cities. New Hope did not do away with 5 cities. The provider of the buses, I believe it was Prism actually, stopped providing buses, and we were unable to find an alternative, so 5 cities could no longer operate. And that's sad. During the time I've been on the council, I've watched the seniors come and say what an important function it was for them, and I'm open to looking at alternatives, but to date we don't have any. As for pedestrian safety, I would just note that every project that we've had come before the council, we've talked about pedestrian access. We've made a point of making sure developers provide pedestrian access in a safe and proper mode.
Thank you. Mr. Oswald?
Okay. Yes, I agree. The sidewalks need improvement. I mean, with the American Disabilities Act, that everybody, every building has to have access for the disabled to be able to access the building is a huge priority, and we need to make sure we're in compliance with those rules. How do you get it done? I know the city relies a lot on the repairs of long county roads, Winnetka, as well as County Road 42. For the repairs of the road, we can try to make sure that they're also including the repairs for the sidewalks. Regarding the busing, that one's going to have to turn down to more than likely a private business coming in and either getting some funding, small amount of funding from the city to help subsidize that, or just relying on them making a business for a small profit, which, as Mr. Stahner said, there's not any quick fixes to that in sight at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. London?
Given the costs of the service, one of the things we haven't even talked about is really just carpooling. The city has started nextdoor.com, and maybe many of the senior residents aren't on the computer, but that would be my first go-to is, let's try and work with the residents and set up a carpooling system, because that's at no cost. All right, and we have many volunteers in this city, many retirees that may be willing to help out their neighbor, as I do. I have a 90-year-old neighbor across the street who's lived in his house since the 60s. His car just recently broke down, but I take them places. The senior living facilities all have transportation, and so residents there obviously can use that. In terms of the streets and keeping the streets and sidewalks safe, I am a big proponent of the Smart Streets program that was implemented here by the help of Eric Weiss, and I want to continue to see equality for all users of streets.
Thank you. The next question has to do with expanding City Hall. Do you support the construction of a new City Hall with District 281 administration as a tenant? Do we need a new City Hall, and will it raise our taxes? And should parkland be decreased to expand the police station and/or City Hall? Mr. Oswald?
I'm sorry, would you mind breaking down the three questions again for me?
Certainly. Do you support the construction of a new City Hall with a District 281 administration as a tenant? Do we need a new City Hall, and will it raise our taxes? And should parkland be decreased to expand the police station and/or City Hall?
Okay. Should we be expanding City Hall? If it allows us to control the temperature in this room like this, then yes. Because I don't know if you've noticed, I've been sweating up here a lot. But should we consider allowing 281 to be a tenant or a resident with us in the new City Hall? Yes. Shared funds from them is going to be a bonus for us, usually meaning less money for us. Is it going to raise taxes? Yes. But taxes are inevitable in any form or fashion. Just figuring out a way, though, that we can share the burden of taxes among the taxpayers so that it's fair for everybody versus just being the bulk by one group is going to be important. And should we use parkland? Since we have a park system that is 50 years dying, then we should look at considering using some of the parkland that is too expensive to repair or renovate.
Thank you. Mr. Elder?
Yeah, we've had conversations with 281 on this, and they would be a viable tenant. They'd be a great tenant. Their building is wrought with challenges, as is this building itself. So it would be a great way to marry the two. Would it raise taxes? Yeah, it would. However, it would be serving two public agencies in one facility. And if done correctly, we don't have to do away with parkland to have this happen. You won't need to do that. This current building could be built in its same configuration, at least size dimension, and built up higher. So there's ways to do it without harming parkland whatsoever. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. London?
I am not in favor of a new city hall with the two District 281. There's an opportunity cost there, and talking with some of the members of the school board here tonight, the district has not even gone out and asked the other 6 cities in the school district if they would be willing to partner and have a new city hall. There's, like I said, an opportunity cost. If we have to locate our city hall in the main city center, these are non-tax producing buildings. And I'd much rather see a retail development that's producing taxes, as many people say that the city is already taxing them too much. We have an older demographic here that often complain about the city taxes. They often believe that the taxes are too high and will not support the school levy. So I'm not in favor of continuing to build out more buildings at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Stauner?
I'm neither in favor or opposed to the joint facility with the school district. It's too early to say. Right now, we're still studying it. We're still gathering information. We're still trying to determine what sort of cost savings can be achieved by building a facility together and operating a facility together. Until we have that information, we don't have sufficient information on which to make a reasoned judgment. The question, I believe, included the police garage, or the issue of if the police need more space. Yes, they do. As it is right now, we're spending money because we don't have sufficient space in the police garage for all the police cars, so they have to be kept running. There's operational costs for doing that. There's wear and tear on the vehicles. So there are costs that we are incurring because we don't have an adequate facility, and we're going to have to do something with this building, as has been pointed out. As for parkland, depending on where we locate this, the possibility is that this could, if this moves from this location, I see the stop.
Thank you. This question is for Mr. London, but also asks the other candidates to respond as well. Mr. London, in your campaign literature, you referred to New Hope in a rather derogatory way as no hope. Is this the way you view our community?
No, otherwise I wouldn't still live here. But I have many friends and family members that have moved out of the city. Many people say, why do you still live here? I live here because I love the location. 20% of my neighborhood is still original owners, many of which I still know. And I can get in and out of downtown in less than 15 minutes. I believe that's our prime asset, is our location to downtown. But I think we're making a lot of the wrong choices in terms of how we're developing and managing this city. And that's why I decided to run after being moved off of the Citizens Advisory Commission for disagreeing with the mayor and the council. And so now I've decided that we need to make things public and show people that we can turn this city around back to what it was in the 70s and 80s, back when it was the Plymouth of today.
Thank you. Mr. Oswald?
When I first moved to Minnesota and I found the city of New Hope to move into, it was a running joke. It was starting a new life in New Hope, or No Hope. Some people made the joke as, but since I've lived here now for 17 years, I don't see it that way. I love the city of New Hope, and I would never refer to it any longer as No Hope, New Hope. So that's all I have to say on that.
Thank you. Mr. Stauner?
That old no hope joke has been around for a very, very long time. It doesn't really mean much, frankly. New Hope is a great place to live. As has been pointed out, we have an excellent location. There are things that need to improve here, and we've been working on that over the years, and I believe we've made some progress in that score. As for the idea that somehow or another we're going to compete with Plymouth or Maple Grove, one, I don't want to live in either of those communities. Two, that horse has gone. The suburban model that's being built out in the outer suburbs now is not one you can replicate here. New Hope has some unique characteristics that I value and I believe the rest of the residents here value, and I want to keep those characteristics.
Thank you. Mr. Elder?
Would you read it to me one more time, please?
Certainly. You'd like me to read the question again?
There was verbiage in it
Nope.
I'm inquiring as
Nope,
to.
I have it right here.
Thank you.
In your campaign literature, you referred to New Hope in a rather derogatory way as No Hope. Is this the way you view our community?
Thank you. It's offensive. I mean, joke or not, it's offensive. And there needs to be decorum on this council. And this current council has displayed a lot of decorum. And the fact that somebody would do that in a public fashion, I think is distasteful. I think New Hope's a fabulous place to live. We have incredible businesses, incredible people, and I have people that I know that are saying, hey, when you know of a house that becomes available in New Hope, let me know. I have cops out in Minneapolis that want to move into New Hope. We have officers here in New Hope that are looking to move into the city. And if this was a bad place, you wouldn't want to live where you work. There's a lot of great here, and the term no hope is just detracts from it. Thank you.
Thank you. That question is a good segue into the next question, which is about working together. And we will start with you, Mr. Stauner. Accomplishing anything on the New Hope City Council will require at least 3 council members, 4 in some cases. Please describe what you have done in the past and what you would do to earn consensus when your positions differ greatly from other council members. And if elected, would you agree with this concept, which recently appeared in a letter to the editor about being a team player on the council?
Well, I think I have been a team player. I believe the council as a whole works well as a team. Consensus requires hard work. It doesn't come easy. You got to be willing to debate. You got to be willing to vigorously debate different points. And I'm not afraid of vigorous debate. I think it's very healthy. I think it's a way of testing ideas and coming to understand positions that other people have and coming to work out the differences people have. Over the years, we've done that. So when we arrive at the consensus, whatever it is, then that's where we go. And once the decision has been made, you move on and you make the decision work. And that's what we've done over the years.
Thank you. Mr. London?
Well, it's the inability to listen to those that differ from your opinion on matters that is really hurting this city council. The dissension, oftentimes, a successful entity needs to seek out and welcome dissension. As Councilmember Stauner said, there needs to be a rigorous debate on many of these issues that we're dealing with here in the city because they are very difficult issues. Often we have some people that benefit at the expense of others. If taxes go up for one group, it may be too burdensome for someone that can't afford higher taxes, yet for a different group, it may be beneficial. So there needs to be dissension and representation of different ideas on the council, and that I don't believe is as represented as it could be.
Mr. Elder?
Wow. There is vigorous debate on this council. There absolutely is. And for someone who hasn't been to a work session, to say there is no vigorous debate is ignorant. There is a lot of dissension. There's a lot of back and forth. But most importantly, it's done respectfully. And at the end of the day, if I lose a vote, and I have, we walk out of this chambers, we walk out of the conference room, and we talk. Not about council stuff, about family, about other things, about travel. People get along. We understand that, you know what, we won't always see eye to eye, but we're darn well going to work hard with each other or against each other to make the best decision come about. This council's worked for that exact reason. It's respect. Thank you.
Mr. Oswald?
Being new to the council arena, we're all fighting for the same thing. We're all trying to benefit the city and provide representation for the people of the city of New Hope. So yes, consensus is going to be hard work. There's always going to be vigorous debate, but you can't get your feelings hurt by any of the debate. We're all trying to fight for the same thing, and I agree with Mr. Stoner. Once a decision is made, you work at making that decision to be successful going forward. If it doesn't work going forward, then at the next election, the city of New Hope can vote you out of your position. So you find a way to work together with the debate and the consensus of getting things done to make New Hope a better city.
Thank you. The next question has to do with the school referendum, and we will be starting with Mr. Elder. Since all of our schools are within District 281, do you support the 2 referendum questions that are on the ballot?
Well, thankfully, as a councilman, that's not something I get to have direct input on, other than how I fill out my ballot on November 4th. I do support them. I think it's imperative that we continue to support our schools. The first one is the continued levy that's already in place, and to continue with that. And the next one is the technology levy, which I believe is important. I know that's the more controversial of the 2, but I do believe that the students will learn better, will excel and achieve more with the technology at their hands. We do have a program where we're getting more teachers trained with that technology so that they can be real good at, do better at being able to get those students squared away. I will be supporting the levy. I think it's important for the schools. I know it's important for the schools, and I know it's important for this community. Thank you.
Mr. Stoner?
I do support the levy. A strong city requires strong schools. You can't have one without the other. Schools are an integral part of what makes a community work. And what makes schools work, like it or not, is money. Without money, you can't do things. I know there's people out there that want to tell you we can do things on the cheap and everything's just going to be great. Well, that never works out that way. So I will be voting yes on both of the levy questions.
Thank you. Mr. Oswald?
Just like Mr. Elder and Stoner, I do agree with both of the referendums as well. The continued levy one, again, is already in place, so we're just voting to continue it on. Schools will not survive without the money. And the fact that we need to approve technology funding for, I believe the school district was ranked halfway down the list with regards to being with the rest of the school districts in the state, that we've got to advance our technology for the kids. I'm voting for the 2 referendums.
Mr. London?
I am in favor of both referendums. However, I do find some concern with the accounting controls inside of the school district. I've challenged Jeff Priest and many of the school board members regarding the outsourcing of the busing and the data that was presented at that time. Again, I agree with Councilmember Stoner that we do need strong schools here. But again, it gets back to housing and taxes. We need to worry again about our housing and the value of the housing in this city to provide higher tax levels for our surrounding districts. You can see some of the schools are challenged. Many, we have 4, I think, in this school district that are now in the bottom 10%. In the local, or in the latest Sun Post, you can read about it. But we need to more adequately fund our schools, but at the same time look to.
Thank you. This question is for Mr. Oswald and Mr. London specifically. You both mentioned negative things you associate with rental units. If elected to the City Council, what would you propose the City of New Hope do to increase renters' community involvement if limiting or reducing the percentage of rental units is not an option? Mr. Oswald?
Right before you said reducing, what was this? Increasing?
If limiting or reducing the percentage of rental units is not an option.
Okay. Well, in my opening statement, I mentioned the 49% that is the multi-housing here in the city of New Hope. And living in an apartment for the last 17 years, we see a lot of turnover, and it's not good. I just know that we can vote to stop agreeing to build new locations. They're not turning out the way that we were told, I believe, at Winnetka and Bass Lake. The ownership, I believe, has changed there, and it wasn't as classy of a location. But this also puts a stress on our police department with having to respond to multiple calls with regards to the location. So we should start looking at doing neighborhood action calls and getting more and more of the people involved in improving them to stay longer than just coming and going in the apartments.
Mr. Elder, would you like to respond?
I'm sorry, was that to Mr.?
It's to.
Oh, okay,
to
okay.
respond to it as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of things in the community that obviously includes everybody. And one of the things that we could do would be to go ahead and maybe through our crime prevention or through our parks and recs, figure out things that would go around particular buildings or particular areas of multi-housing for events to try to, it's like a national night out, but maybe on a more frequent basis for areas of multi-housing. I don't know, that's just a thought. I mean, I have no challenges with it.
Thank you. Mr. London?
I think one you have to remember is the incentives, okay? Incentives matter, and they drive everything. For a landlord, the incentive is profit, okay? We need to, again, stop building more rental units and continue to build more single families because it comes down to the incentives. They drive everything. Limiting is an option. Like I said, we can stop building. One of the things that we're doing in this city is overpaying for land. So if you overpay for land when you acquire something, then you're forced to have to build higher density housing to get a better return on investment. I'd like to see an 8 cul-de-sac and 8 houses next to the golf course as opposed to another apartment building. So that's what I'd have to say about that.
Thank you. Mr. Stauner?
My neighbors would love that if there wasn't an apartment building in that site, and given the soil conditions, that may be what happens. But the fact is that the city doesn't build apartments. Private individuals build apartments. And when I checked, to date, no one's handed me a magic wand to make apartments go away. There are market forces that are dictating what's getting built, not this council. So the idea that somehow we're going to make apartments go away is just not real. As for bringing people into the community more, we've had some significant changes in the demographics of this city since I've lived here. And we need to do a better job of outreaching to people and getting them involved on citizen commissions. One of the things I want to do in the next 4 years is focus on improving the use of citizen commissions. We don't do a particularly good job of that at the moment, and we can improve that.
Thank you. The next question, we will start with Mr. London. Mr. London, the Hy-Vee project is slated to break ground before the end of the year for Phase 1 of City Center. What, if anything, would you do differently with City Center, and what is your vision for the rest of New Hope City Center, and what will happen to the farmers market now that the Hy-Vee businesses will take up much of that area?
Well, as Councilmember Stauner has said many times, the Hy-Vee store is the city center development. Residents came together. There's a city center vision document, 37 pages long. You can find it on the city website or on my Facebook page. It outlines what the residents came together starting in 1998 for. It was never for a single tenant grocer and a gas station. Okay, I teach chess at Robbinsdale Spanish Immersion. One of the fellows that volunteers there is the dairy manager at Cub. He told me about the Cub over here in Plymouth and the Cub over in Crystal, what they do. There was never a business plan required for this Hy-Vee deal. Again, the city spent $6.5 million, sold it to Hy-Vee for $3,725,000. When they asked for a business plan, they said, oh, it's proprietary information. I say, who's calling the shots here? Is it Hy-Vee? They want over a dozen locations here in the Twin Cities. This happened to be ready to go. There's not a lot of other cities in the Twin Cities that have a downtown site ready to go.
Thank you. Mr. Oswald?
Would you mind repeating the parts of the question again for me?
Certainly. The Hy-Vee project is slated to break ground before the end of the year for Phase 1 of City Center. What, if anything, would you do differently with City Center, and what is your vision for the rest of New Hope City Center? And what will happen to the farmers market now that the Hy-Vee business will take up much of that area?
Okay. It is my understanding that there would be some things I would do differently with regards to the city center. I know that what is allowed to build there is based on with regard to zoning and ordinances. And the ordinance has been passed that will allow certain things to go in and certain things not to go in, and then the possibility of things going in. So we have to look at what is limited there. The problem I do have with the new Hy-Vee store is with regards to Lot 3, which was mentioned in one of the last two council meetings, is that we can't bring a restaurant, a wholesale like Target or Sam's there, or a coffee shop, Caribou or Starbucks. Why are they limiting that location there? I know there's going to be a coffee shop and a restaurant in Hy-Vee, but we should still have some kind of input with regards to what can go there without them telling us and dictating what is going to be allowed on Lot 3. So,
Thank you. Mr. Stahner?
Just to respond to Mr. Oswald, they own Lot 3. They can do what they want with it. That's called private property rights. And obviously, they don't want competing businesses there. So my real concern with Hy-Vee was less that it's there than that I wish we'd taken more time to carefully evaluate it, and more importantly, evaluate its impact on the businesses, not just in the what we call city center, but out along 42nd Avenue. There will be consequences to the Hy-Vee store, and they're not all going to be positive. And I wish we'd spent more time evaluating that. We did have a city center plan. Hy-Vee is not what was envisioned at the time, but Hy-Vee is not a terrible thing. Personally, I don't think it's a particularly great thing. It's a grocery store, which to me is not that important.
Thank you. Mr. Elder?
Been speaking with a lot of people while I've been out as a councilman. The feel for Hy-Vee and the acceptance for Hy-Vee is very high. I'm one vote, I'm one voice, but I'm elected by the citizens of New Hope, so it's important that I carry their message. There is a city center vision. It's dated, and it was up for change. It needed change, and that's how that works. The farmers market, I'm one of the founding board members of the New Hope Community Farmers Market, and we will be going likely up to St. Joe's Church for 1 year, and possibly back down here the following year. The market's not going away. The citizens have been too good to it. Hy-Vee is also very positive for the fact that in Phase 2 development, it's bringing driving in count numbers so that other people are going to want to come and build in this area. It will bring in additional businesses. I agree with Councilman Stahner. We probably could have done a better job looking at the bigger picture first. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question asks again about housing, and we will start with Mr. Stahner. What is the most practical way to increase the value of homes in New Hope, and should we increase the percentage of home ownership as compared to rental housing? If so, where are the specific locations for adding single-family homes and condos, and what is the current zoning for those locations?
To the last part first, there aren't a lot of locations for adding single-family homes in New Hope. We're a fully built city. The one place where, frankly, to my surprise, we've actually got a developer interested in putting in a single-family home project is at the Winnetka Learning Center site. Other than that, there aren't a whole lot of places that are big enough to support a development. In terms of increasing the value of New Hope property, one, believe it or not, is higher density that brings in people who will patronize the businesses that make this a more attractive city. Another is the use of the community block grant development or community development block grant funds to help people rehab their houses and keep them up. We can do a better job there with those programs and make them more available and make people more aware of them to help maintain our property values and increase our property values.
Thank you. Mr. London?
Yeah, my property has fallen 7 years in a row, my house. And when we look for practical ways to replace them, like I mentioned, we had a property on 40th and Winnetka that sat vacant for 10 years. There's a house on Boone Avenue that's been burnt and has been vacant for more than a year. Residents are complaining about rodents that are starting to infiltrate their own residences. Roughly 0.5% to 1% of our housing is in foreclosure. Many of those are decent candidates because they haven't been kept up. I think, again, we have to look at the city of Crystal. They have a great program, have averaged 13.5 new homes a year since 2000. New Hope, by comparison, less than 2. So Crystal has built more than 100 more new single-family homes than New Hope has. You can drive down 36 and see them on Zane Avenue, on Welcome Avenue, driving up Douglas Drive. St. Louis Park. New Hope's median home value in 1990 and 2000 was higher than St. Louis Park. Today, it's $30,000 less.
Mr. Elder?
Would you give me the question again, please?
Certainly. What is the most practical way to increase the value of homes in New Hope? And should we increase the percentage of home ownership as compared to rental housing? If so, where are the specific locations for adding single-family homes and condos? And what is the current zoning for these locations?
Thank you. Yeah, as Councilman Stauner mentioned, we're at kind of a loss for new spaces. We can't just make that happen. We can be using the CDBG block grant money for rehabs, and we have done some of that. We are moving towards doing more of that, as we have found that it's worked in some cases. We've also worked with Habitat for Humanity to get other homes to be rehabilitated and back out into the market. Again, keeping in mind that if you take out the senior citizens and disabled housing, you have 22% rental. We do a very good job with rental inspections and ensuring that our rental properties are being taken care of. That's a way of making sure that housing, the regular housing values remain high. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Oswald?
Well, the third part of that question was already asked at the beginning here, question number 2, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse to the death there. But with regards to increasing the value of the houses, I agree with Councilman Stoner on the higher density to patronize businesses coming in. And then the block grant as well as Habitat for Humanity are great community efforts to help. Habitat does a lot more than just build houses for possibly low-income individuals. They teach people how to refurbish their houses. They also provide money to help with regards to mortgages and development of their own houses. They educate the people going into their houses, and if they have the ability of losing their house, Habitat gets the first right at it. So Habitat has a program called Refab, or I can't think of the name of it now, where they help with the refurbishing of houses that don't need to be rebuilt, full new projects. So I think working with Habitat in some form or fashion will be a great way to help increase the values of houses.
Thank you. The next question is about watersheds, and we will start with Mr. Elder. What is your position on the water quality efforts of Bassett Creek and Shingle Creek watersheds?
Well, I am the kind of co-representative for the Bassett Creek Watershed Management Commission. I have handed off the duties for a short period of time to Pat Crow, one of our citizens who's the assistant commissioner, because of his vast knowledge and history with watershed issues. These were things that he would better understand and better represent the city of New Hope. We have some things that are coming on right now with Northwood Parkway, or with Northwood Pond, reference some improvements for water quality, and we're being very active and very proactive. We've sought out grants. It's important to take care of this body of water because that is the most western body of water that continues to flow all the way down and subsequently into Lake Pepin. We need to take care of our waters here in New Hope to ensure that, number one, quality of life for the people that live in that area, as well as the waters down the road.
Thank you. Mr. Stauner?
I've served on both the Bassett Creek and the Shingle Creek commissions. I can tell you that generally they do a good job. There's room for improvement. There's plenty of room for improvement in everything, and certainly in the commissions. Water quality is not an easy topic to deal with. It's a complex issue. It's a problem that's been created by actions of everybody over the years, all the lawn fertilizer that went on lawns over the years. We are doing some innovative things. Councilmember Elder mentioned the Northwood Park project that we're looking at, and one of the things we're looking at doing is a cistern system there that will capture stormwater, use it to irrigate the ball fields, and that will function not just to help remove some of the fertilizers, but also some of the bacterial contaminants, the road salt. So those are the kind of things that we're starting to do now, that we're looking to do, and those take time.
Mr. Oswald?
I agree with Councilman Stoner with regards to the reusing the rainwater, working at Target Field and seeing how they've been able to pull and save millions of gallons of water by reusing the stuff to water the fields. Yeah, the water quality is going to be tough to preserve with what everybody individually does with their own lawn and what people just throw into the streets. It's going to be a work in progress for a very long time, and I have confidence in the fact that the two commissions will do their best job to make sure that we are getting the best water treatment that we can in the city.
Thank you, Mr. London.
Yeah, I live by Northwood Pond, and as I've been outdoor knocking and talking to the residents, they aren't happy with how Northwood Pond looks. And I know Councilmember Elder has missed a number of those meetings at the Bassett Creek watershed. One of the things that I'd like to see is a dredging schedule. There's often a lot of silt that's flowing into Northwood, and as far as I know, and many of the residents that I've talked to around the pond that attend those meetings, I don't think that there's a regular dredging schedule. So that's what I'd look for. I'd also look to limit the phosphorus inflow. That comes from the fertilizer that people are putting on their lawns, and monitoring the surrounding cities that flow in, especially from Plymouth. One of the major issues we had is there's a stormwater retention pond right by Fat Nat's and Frankie's. And this council has gone ahead, other than Andy Hoff, and voted in a new retail establishment to take place over the water runoff. I disagree with that.
Thank you. The next question is a two-part question, and we will be starting with Mr. Oswald. Should the ice arena and golf course be in the general fund or enterprise fund? And do you support the ice arena, swimming pool, and golf course? If not, why not?
Should the ice arena be included in the general fund or the enterprise fund? I believe it should be included in the general fund. And do I support the ice arena, the pool, and the golf course? I really do. As I mentioned in my opening statement, I have used these facilities over the years and have come to enjoy them and expect use from them going forward. The golf course has really taken in some really good improvements over the years with the parking lots and the redesign of some of the tree areas. The ice arena has made some great improvements over the last few years. The location of the digital sign next to a tree is questionable, but that could be easily remedied by that tree moving. But I do agree with those items because the city needs the recreational facilities that we have.
Thank you. Mr. Elder?
I truly support all three of those. They are public amenities. They are truly jewels of New Hope. The golf course made money last year. The ice arena made money if you don't count in some of the depreciation for some of the equipment. And the pool did not make money. And the pool is in the general fund, and the other two are in enterprise funds. And either way, I believe we have to keep those three things going. It's used by our citizens. It's appreciated by our citizens. It brings business into town. We have national hockey tournaments that come to New Hope twice a year. And 2 weekends a year, we have an NHL scout from every team here in New Hope. It brings in business. So we need to keep those alive and thriving. They're great for our city.
Mr. London?
Yes, I'm in favor of all three, ice arena, pool, and golf course, and believe that they're all very important to our city. They often differentiate. We have teams that come from Minnetonka to train in our outdoor pool because they don't have an outdoor pool that's this size. So we draw, as Councilmember Elder said, international and national tournaments and players to our ice arena. I do have to commend the council on going out and fighting for the ice arena versus the previous mayor that threatened to shut it down. But I do look at, in terms of the accounting, we need to maintain, and this is what I looked closely at this when I was the chairman on the Citizens Advisory Commission. We have to look at the depreciation costs for these facilities, because what got us in trouble with the ice arena was that we never put any money away for improvements. And so often, if you look at the depreciation costs, those are an estimate for what the ongoing replacement value would be.
Thank you, Mr. Stauner.
Like everything else in city government, you have to do a cost-benefit analysis of these facilities and determine whether the benefit you're getting justifies the cost. The ice arena and golf course are enterprise funds, which means they're supposed to be self-supporting. They're enterprise funds partly because they're heavily used by non-residents. The ice arena, 85% of the people who use the ice arena don't live in New Hope. They don't pay taxes to support that. So the only way we generate revenue off them is user funds. Both those facilities were badly mismanaged. Their finances were a mess when I joined the council. There was a lot of misinformation put out about the discussion of the council about both facilities 6 years ago. The fact is, we were working hard to clean up the mess, the financial mess that was there. And as has been noted, part of the problem was inadequate capital planning and funding.
Thank you. The next question will begin with Mr. London regarding water utility. What is the city doing about the inflow/infiltration, or I&I problem?
I believe, I'm not exactly sure in what specifically you're talking about. Is that the location there on the corner of Medicine Lake Road and Winnetka?
There's no
Can
more
I get clarification on this? I'm not informed on this matter, so I can't answer.
All right. Mr. Oswald?
I unfortunately have to agree with Mr. London on this one. I have no idea what they're talking about.
That is fair. Mr. Stauner?
One of the advantages of being an incumbent council member is you have to deal with this issue so you know something about it. I&I, inflow and infiltration, is the inflow of groundwater into our sanitary sewer system. The Met Council processes the sanitary sewer waste, and we are charged for that. And if we get excess amounts of storm water flowing into the sanitary system rather than into the storm system where it belongs, we get a surcharge for that. You'll notice on your utility bills, there's a 46-cent surcharge right now for I&I. Over the years, we've taken a lot of steps to try to reduce the I&I problem in our city, particularly with sanitary sewer linings. That extends the life of the sanitary sewers, but also prevents inflow into them of groundwater. There are a number of other things we've been looking at, but given the short amount of time we have here, you can't go into a detailed discussion of it.
Thank you, Mr. Elder.
There was a major storm in June where we had an excess daily allotment of 4.3 million gallons of water going into our sewer system. We received a fine of $1.53 million that is either to be paid out in a fine or to be paid off in repairs towards this system. What we've been doing is we have been lining our system, the sewer pipes, and that has been hugely helpful in keeping water from coming in through any sort of cracks or in the piping. One of the things that other cities have looked at doing was having citizens, before they can sell their house, line their sewers if there's any indication of cracking or degradation of the pipes, actually lining from the house to the pipes. This city has been on top of this and has been working on this through our public works and at the direction of this council. We've made great progress. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is about seniors, and we will start with Mr. Stauner. The question reads, I believe seniors are an important part of New Hope. How do you see seniors participating in our city?
Well, as a senior, I agree. We're an important part of New Hope. And as for participating, here I am. There's plenty of room for seniors to participate. One of the things that always kind of disappoints me is when we have an opening on a citizen commission, a lot of times we don't get very many applicants, and a lot of them are new to the city. I would like to see more senior citizens who've been here for a large part of their life taking part in the opportunities to participate in city government. And there are opportunities, and it's important that people come forward and take part in those.
Thank you. Mr. London?
I definitely think that more involvement with seniors would be welcome. Many of them have asked me for a senior community facility here in the city. And like the city of Crystal, that would be nice to have, but we need to look at the costs, and if we do decide to build out any kind of new building, I would like to see some type of facility that would allow seniors to come. Now, the other thing Councilmember Stauner said is regarding the seniors participating in the commissions. I had a senior on my commission, and he left because of what he felt was a mismanagement of the commissions. So there you can see again, with the leadership of this council, that people are leaving the commissions because of how they felt things were going. I just want to get back to that I&I question. Councilmember Elder here had prepared remarks on this.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir, you're out of time. Mr. Elder?
Our seniors are a fantastic asset to us. Absolutely. Our seniors can bring a great deal of help to this city and a great deal of knowledge. We have seniors who have been deeply involved with this city for a lot of years. In fact, one of our greatest, we have our original parks director who is in this city still, and I know provides a lot of insight. We need to learn ways to draw knowledge from these folks and to include them and learn from them, because there's a phenomenal amount of knowledge, a wealth of knowledge, and some fantastic people out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Oswald?
I can only just reiterate everything that Mr. Stauner, London, and Elder have stated, is that seniors are very important to any community. They've learned over the years and can provide guidance to us youngins as we're coming up with regards to what's going to work and what's not going to work. Now, mind you, joining the commissions, as we mentioned earlier, there's going to be vigorous debates and consensus is going to be needed. So they're going to have to be willing to listen to the other side of the coin versus letting us know that their way, their old way, is the right way. So there will be a nice little seesaw back and forth to get the appropriate decision going forward. But they are very important to the system.
Thank you. The next question is about candidate disclosure. We'll start with Mr. Elder. The question reads, I received literature with no candidate disclosure on it. Do you know the law regarding candidate disclosure?
Yes. Every piece of literature, whether it is just a handout or it's a sign, anything that is done to publicize or inform about a candidate has to state who it's prepared by and who is paying for it. It is a misdemeanor crime not to have that on the literature or on the signs. You'll see on my literature, it says who it's paid for, who it's provided by, and it's me. It's simply me. But that's one of those small intricacies you have to look at. It's one of the things that's attention to detail, and that's what you want in a councilman or a council member. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stauner?
Mr. Elder has stated the law. One of my particular pet peeves in campaigns is anonymous flyers going out. They tend to be full of false statements about people, and I would hope the citizens in New Hope have the sense to disregard things that are not attributed.
Thank you. Mr. Oswald?
Being new at the political campaign here, my understanding of the campaign rules stated that as long as the literature posted your name and the position you're going for, nothing else had to be provided. But if you were like the paid for by at the bottom of the ads, but if you noted something else on your signs, whether it said vote or elect your name and something else, then you had to have the committee to do that. Also, it stated that if you are sending out a flyer within the last 7 days of an election up to 2,000 something, you're allowed to do something else with it. But I'm aware of the procedures. That's why I have no printed literature except for my yard signs. So therefore, I did follow the disclosure rules that I was required to.
Thank you. Mr. London?
Yes, I am familiar with the campaign rules and have followed them. If you look closely, it depends on how much money is being raised. And so if you fall within those lines, and I followed all of, and I'll be filing on the 24th, once again, Councilmember Elder is incorrect. So I believe that if there is a misdemeanor charge, and he's referring to me, then let's see it filed.
Thank you. We have now reached the final segment of the forum when each candidate has 1 minute to give a closing statement. We will begin in reverse order from the opening statements, and that means we begin with Mr. Stauner.
Over the last 8 years, I've worked hard to open up city government to citizens' participation, to make it more accountable and more welcoming of inquiry and debate. I think I've succeeded in accomplishing some of that. There's still work to be done. I think I've done a good job as a council member. If you agree, vote for me. If you disagree and think one of these people will do a better job, then it's your duty as a citizen to vote for them. But regardless of how you vote, please go out and vote.
Thank you. Mr. Oswald.
Thanks again to the League of Women Voters and Channel 12 for hosting the forum today. As I mentioned earlier, there were a few concerns that I have that could use a fresh look from a set of outside eyes. We all pay taxes here one way or another. We expect the police and fire to respond when we need them. We can do a lot more in limiting the number of multifamily housing being built in New Hope. And obviously, as seen, the city center district was always going to need more scrutiny as it progresses along. The last thing New Hope needs is more of the same old thing. Electing me to a city council guarantees that a new, fresh set of eyes is looking over the budgets in the city and the police department. I really love this town, and I'm running for city council to make it better for our families and our neighbors. Again, I'm asking for your vote because I'm going to put you first. Thank you.
Mr. London.
I want to thank League of Women Voters and all those that are in attendance here tonight. I've spent 6 years on the Citizens Advisory Commission learning about this city. I've had many disagreements and have learned many things from the council members. I've lived in New Hope more than 30 years. I've seen a lot. I don't believe the city is moving in the right direction. That's why I'm running. I sat down and had coffee with the council, with the mayor and council member Elder, with another commissioner, asked, are we moving forward or are we moving backward? The response was 14 projects in the works. We've got 2 Family Dollars, a Dollar Tree, Arc Value Village is expanding. I said, Mayor, those aren't the quality retail establishments that we need in this city to drive and attract stronger growth. So I'm for a stronger New Hope. It starts with housing, and it will impact all the demographics. And like the city of Crystal, we can do it. I ask for your vote November 4th. Thank you.
Mr. Elder.
Well, if Mr. London is quoting a meeting that I was at, none of those words were spoken except for, is the city going forward or backward? It's going forward. There's a book here showing the great things that have happened this past year. More than happy to have people look at it at a different time. Thank you to the League of Women's Voters for their having this evening. I've done a lot as a council member, been honored to do it. I've been able to work with citizens and corporate businesses. I brought a manufacturing company to town and have worked with several other businesses to expand instead of leaving. I'm accessible and approachable, and I'm honest. I would like you to go to my website, www.johnaalderfornewhope.org. I'd like your vote November 4th. Thank you and stay safe. Meow.
We want to thank the candidates and audience members for their part in the forum tonight. Let's have a big hand for all the candidates who have done their part tonight. And your part is to vote on Tuesday, November 4th.
And thank you very much to Robin Smothers for doing a fine job as our moderator tonight. Just a little housekeeping here, as we always have to make sure that everybody knows how to vote. And you know the election will be held on Tuesday, November the 4th. Now, if you're not a registered voter, and perhaps everyone in this room is, but I might be speaking to people on cable who aren't. You may register at the polls if you've been a resident of the state for at least 20 days before the election, have a valid Minnesota driver's license, learner's permit, or Minnesota identification card or a receipt for any of these, or a utility bill showing the correct address in the precinct. You may also register accompanied by a registered voter in the precinct who will take an oath along with the election judge that you qualify to vote in that precinct. And that's a lot to think about right now. But here's the new thing this year. Any voter may vote early by using an absentee ballot instead of voting in person at the polling place on election day. So that's any voter. You don't have to have an excuse. You can vote absentee by mail, in person at your New Hope city office right here, or by having a person you know pick up an application, take it to you, you sign it, and then deliver the ballot back. Now, there's information at the table outside this room regarding the hours at the city office that you can do this. Or you can go to the Secretary of State's voter website, mnvotes.org, for more information. Now, if there's a member of this audience or our cable TV audience who feels an issue has not been adequately addressed, we urge you to contact the candidates directly. Campaign literature provided by the candidates is on a table in the hallway outside this room. League of Women Voters encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. So membership is open to men and women of all ages. For more information about League of Women Voters, visit www.lwvmn.org and follow the prompts to our local league, the Crystal New Hope East Plymouth League of Women Voters. And we also encourage you to become a member as we provide service to our community and join us in the nonpartisan study of local, state, and national issues. You can pick up some of League's information on the tables outside. Tonight's forum will be replayed on Northwest Cable Channel 12 on Saturday, October the 21st at 10 o'clock in the morning, and it's also streamed on www.12.tv.org. You know, there are many ways to see this forum and listen to it, and we encourage those of you in the cable audience who have friends who weren't able to come here tonight to access those areas. I want to thank you again for your attendance here and your questions tonight. Well done, and thank you to the candidates again.